Hello, everyone. This is Anthony Floyd with the Scottsdale Green Building Program. And this month, which is Earth Month, we're continuing our celebration and efforts and initiatives for continuing green building, renewable energy, solar, and everything that has to do with the environment. And tonight, we're going to be talking about spring gardens with Joan Barron and Morgan Winburn. Joan is not a friend, is a friend. She's not a stranger to the Scottsdale Green Building Program. Joan has been a longtime supporter, as well as an environmental artist and a master gardener. She's joined today with Morgan, and Morgan is also a master gardener. And they're joining us from Clark Park Gardening, or Community Garden. And so they're going to take it from here live from Clark Park, Joan and Morgan. Hey guys, you need to unmute yourself. Hey Joan, Morgan, need to unmute yourself.
Unmute.
There you go.
There we go.
I think we got it. Sorry, everyone. You know, we're gardeners, not technical folk.
Exactly. We all have our skill sets.
So we're excited to be back with you all. And we've got a fabulous hour ahead. So our first stop is this, is going to be right. I'm going to turn around and so
Okay, we'll turn the camera around.
You will, yeah, we'll turn the camera. But first, our first project for you guys is solarization. And Morgan's going to explain the value in doing a solarization. And it's also a really great technique to know if you're helping at schools with school gardens, or you're also getting involved in community gardens like this one, because there are always a lot of these raised garden beds.
Yeah. Or if you're, you know, a snowbird and want to leave for the summer, but you're afraid of the weeds taking over control of your garden, or you just have a problem area. This works best in small areas, not really large gardens, but in a small raised bed, container gardens, that sort of thing.
And the cool thing is you're also making beautiful, rich soil for yourself when you come back to that location and you're ready to plant new seeds or new starters, right, Mark?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and then just for
cool.
today, we did say when we were unmuted that we want to let everyone know we have been vaccinated. That's why we're close and without masks. And also today's focus is kind of what you can do for the summer. We have two really great growing seasons, plus an extra summer, if you know how to do it well.
Right.
And where it's a different way of growing in the central and low deserts. So we're going to show you the first technique. It's the solarization. There's a couple of things that you really need. Is you need a clear plastic. Let me turn the camera around. I keep doing that.
Yeah. I think we should.
Yeah. Then we won't see.
I'll just move.
You won't be able to see though. Why does it? Because you won't be able to see. There we go. Okay. There.
Sorry, folks.
What you need is, as you can see, this bed had a horrible infestation of clover and spurge and burrs and all kinds of stuff. So we pulled most of it out. It doesn't have to be perfect. And we're leaving the irrigation on it as well. We're going to put that under the plastic. This only works really with plants that go to seed. It will not work for Bermuda grass. Actually, it'll make your Bermuda grass grow even worse. So this is just for seedlings and your seeds that you don't want. And the first thing you're going to do is heavily water the area. So I'm doing demonstration. I'll do this better later. But the reason why is we want to have water underneath and we want to have clear plastic. A lot of the sites will show you black plastic. That is not going to work for this process. What you're actually doing is you are creating a mini hothouse. And what's going to happen in that hothouse is you're going to, with the water and the solar, it's going to have all the seeds come up. And they're like, yay, water, sunlight, and then it gets so hot in there that it actually kills them, the extra moisture and everything kills the seeds. So you want the seeds to come up. So you wet it down, you put the clear plastic on, and then you tack it down. You tuck it in really good, and then you use lawn tacks. Or my favorite are the big nails with the washers on it. Or you can put bricks on it as well. But basically you're creating a hot house under there. Seeds come up, they die. And then what happens is all of that nutrients goes right back into the soil. The extra water goes in there and it starts breaking down the mulch and that kind of thing. So that you end up having good soil, the humus and all the good bacteria starts growing there. So in a few weeks or a couple months, whichever you decide, you come back, you're going to have really great soil underneath the soil. So that's one way to put your bed to rest for the summer if you don't want to garden. This is one way of just kind of blanketing it and getting it ready for the fall.
Great. Thanks, Morgan.
We're going to show you a couple other ways that we've been working on the soil and some cool things. If you recently read Green Life magazine, our ancient grains trial was showcased in there, and Joan's going to tell you a little bit more about that.
So Rocky Mountain Seed Alliance, based in Mancos, Colorado. I'll hand this to you. Okay. And we decided that we wanted to try something new with some of our plots, empty plot over here. We got it all cleaned up. We designated rows to become members of the Heritage Grain Trials. And we want to show off our first success with the barley. We're so excited about this. And we were given just 100 seeds, and we will return over 200 seeds back to the Rocky Mountain Seed Alliance for them to pass on to others to be able to grow and test. Mm-hmm. And we keep records of how long it took for it to seed up and how long till we harvest. But look at how gorgeous this is. And you can make bread with this. You can do so many different things with this. And because they're the ancient grains, there's no concern about pesticides or being a GMO seed. These are all very well selected.
And drought tolerant as well.
And drought tolerant. We picked a drought tolerant seed. And so this summer, we're going to try the buckwheat and see how well it does.
We've got an amaranth that's trying to come up.
Yeah, let's take a hello to the amaranth. And we'll come back and see if she's still with us in a couple months.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
But we're really excited for the first time doing this. And even with the fact that we had some challenges with our drip system and we were changing things over and experimenting. So the flow of water and, you know, when we got hit with some of that early hot weather, it was a challenge. So we're really proud of ourselves for our first attempt.
And the idea is to bring back grains that we've kind of lost some of the knowledge about it. So even in our experimentation and not necessarily knowing what we were doing, we actually learned a lot from that as well.
They are nutrient packed, the ancient grains, which is another really important thing when we are trying to feed more people with healthier food. We want those foods to be dense in the most important nutrients and minerals to build healthy bodies.
And we wanted to also learn about conditioning the soil and weed control, because if you look at the Tibetan barley, there's less weeds in that area, because the Tibetan barley is the dominant species for that area. And the other ones that are struggling a little bit, we still have lots of weeds. So that was one of the other control factors that we were learning.
While we're over here, can we give them a peek at some of the other successes?
Yeah.
So we're right here?
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so you'll notice here this beautiful blue violet flowering plant. And if you look really close, you'll see it's just packed full with bees. That's borage. And borage, the flower, is actually sought after by a lot of restaurants because it's edible and it's decorative, so a beautiful presentation. And then right below it is this entire forest of mint. And if you look really close, you will see not one, not two, but dozens, literally dozens of ladybugs. So you want the ladybugs in your garden because they will eat the aphids. So plant your peppermint. And there are so many fun varieties of mint too. So
yeah, the mint, the sweet, all the sweetness of the mint keeps them in the garden. So often ladybugs will do their thing, eat the aphids, and then move on. But if you plant sweet things or even put a little bit of sugar out for them,
or honey, you could just do a little drop of honey on a piece of wax paper.
Yep. And then that'll keep them in your garden a little bit longer.
And then you can go home and make some mint tea.
Yeah.
Or it's really good in a smoothie.
Yeah, and my favorite is mint cucumber water.
Wonderful.
Just throw it in your water. But yeah, so this is a bed that
volunteer bed.
This is the volunteer bed. So we allow volunteers to come in here, and we also let volunteer plants decide what they want to do too.
Exactly.
So
while we're here, right here is a really great example. Morgan and I were talking earlier about when you can just take your hand and snip off a dead branch, leaves, brown leaves, what to do with them. Well, we both agreed that it makes more sense, especially with summer right ahead of us, to just break that up and just leave it on the ground and let it create mulch to protect the soil as the temperatures get higher.
Yep.
Excuse me, Joan.
Yes.
Joan and Morgan. We're getting some questions. Do you want to wait till the end or?
Oh, do the questions now because they might relate to.
Yeah, if they relate to this, then yeah, we can answer them.
Well, here's a question. Are the ladybugs native or do we need to buy some to put in the garden?
Oh, they're native, but you always can buy some if you want to get started, but you want to prepare, like Morgan said, a little bit of sugar. You want to already have your mint plants in place. You already want to be prepared with a little strip of wax paper and honey. Yeah. Or they're going to fly away.
And ours all came in on their own. In the community garden, they all came in on their own.
We want to keep them.
And we kept them, and we're keeping the mint intact too, because one of the ones, it's hidden. See, look, there's the ladybug eggs right there.
Can you guys see that? It's hard to tell.
Right there. So they laid eggs and they're still here.
Which is good. Look, here's some on the pepper plant too.
So
all right, a few other questions related to what you talked about already. How did we get some of those seeds? That looks amazing. The ancient grains.
Oh, well, you just send an email or a text to me, and I'll
Or-
talk to you more about it.
Or go to RockyMountainAlliance.com.
Yeah, if you're a group, go there. But if you're just an individual wanting to learn more, yeah, you can go to the website to read up on it. But if you
Or
if you
come here
want
on
to talk
Saturday.
about that, yeah, come Saturday or just text me and give me a little bit more info about what you're thinking of trying to do with it, with the seed.
And a question about the solarizing. Doesn't solarizing kill the microorganisms in the soil too?
Good question.
Yeah, it can. And that's why you keep watering it. That's why you have a water source underneath so that it keeps working on building the humus and the bacteria underneath under the plastic. If you bake your soil, then yes, it will definitely. And that's why we don't recommend doing black.
Has the drought limited the amount of spring flowers so far?
No.
Well, I mean, in the wild, probably. I haven't seen as
Oh,
many.
maybe.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't think that we're on drip irrigation here, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in your own personal garden later. But I think this year there has been a significant reduction in wildflowers because of the drought.
Out in the wild.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And in
make
terms
sure
of,
that,
oh, go ahead.
well, I just want to make sure that everyone's clear on that. If you're talking about at home and the wildflowers, it's different, like Morgan's saying, than if you're out on a hike and you don't see any wildflowers. They depend on rainfall. We're all set up with a drip system, so very different circumstances.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
in
mean,
terms
we've
of
got
containers,
every color of flower blooming right now. It's a paradise here.
Yeah, and our wildflowers, we specifically planted wildflowers, and they were incredible this spring, but it's a different situation out in the wild.
that's great. In terms of the containers, in a container garden, can I plant borage and mint together in the same container?
I wouldn't. I would do them in separate containers because borage borage gets very large, and I've done it. You want a large container for your borage. And mint is still invasive.
Yeah.
And so basically mint will grow so much until it basically chokes itself out. So it will do that to anything you plant with it as well.
Any other plants you recommend putting together in a container with herbs?
In containers, it's usually best not to companion plant in the container, but definitely next to each other, just because it's such limited resources. And we're going to go into a little bit more about that as well.
Which also supports the whole idea. If you really want to learn more about gardening and you enjoy it, and you do have limited space at your home, you can do what all of us who volunteer here at Clark Park Gardens do, is we work here also.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's so much more space here, and that means you can experiment more. And then you can see something that maybe you didn't know about, and then you can plant that at your house. So there's benefits to participating in both ways in gardening.
And we're going to go over a little bit about water and container gardening and soil and what you can actually plant now for the summer season.
Okay, and I'm going to let you guys go on, but
yeah,
there
we
were a
wanted
couple
to
of
show
questions
everybody
about your
a few-
location.
Where
are you?
We're at Clark Park Community Garden, and it's on Roosevelt and Broadway and Tempe. On Roosevelt, so it's 1730 South Roosevelt, Tempe, Arizona. And there's a lot that goes on here. We have individual beds, as you can see, that are rented. We have a waiting list starting for October if you want to get on that. And then we have the volunteer bed. We have over there is our pollinator garden that we specifically put native plants in it to try to bring in some native pollinators. So we're trying to do at least 20% of the entire garden is flowers, and I think we've succeeded that.
Yes, we have. Let's walk over here just real quick.
Okay.
This is so gorgeous. This is a bed of Swiss chard. Look at the size of these leaves. And you guys can do this too.
And also to notice, it's at the
Bolting.
end of the growing season.
Right.
This is called bolting. It's where a plant will put all of its resources into making seeds, so it grows really big and really fast. It's no longer edible once it does that for most plants. So this is bolting, and then that will get flowers, and we leave that as well for seeds. Did this broccoli. The bees just did their job, and now there's beautiful seed pods all over the broccoli.
So we're going to let those dry, and then we'll harvest them and save them for the next season.
Yep. And then all of these wonderful, like every box usually has a lot of flowers in it. But I think Joan wanted to point out over here is our pollinator garden, specifically for different pollinators. So there's native milkweed in here that we worked with the Desert Botanical Garden on. Our wildflowers were here, and they were extremely vibrant just a couple weeks ago, but we're letting them go to seed now. We left a few weeds. We'll have to get rid of those.
Hey, Morgan.
Yeah.
Can you explain that this used to be a parking facility, a pool facility?
Swimming pool.
Yeah, this used to be a pool. So
This circle here existed.
this was the kiddie pool. This round circle garden here was the kiddie pool. Over there where we just were was the Olympic size swimming pools. And in about the early 2000s, it was decommissioned, and it basically sat for 10 years, where we couldn't even use the pool, but they were still utilizing it. So about 2010, 2011, they came to the community and said, what do you want to do with this? And so he said, let's put in a community garden, and the neighborhood associations and TCA got together to create the garden. And so in 2014, then it was actually opened up to the public as well. Just bypassed our little herb spiral garden, and
Look at these beautiful
patience.
pink impatiens.
Yep.
The size of the petals, right?
Right. Yeah.
Gorgeous. Tomatoes in there, French marigolds, or nasturtiums,
So
peppers.
we're gonna go back. We're gonna switch cameras. We're doing a little tour on the way back, and we're going to go over some other topics for the next half hour. All right, just double checking. Do we have?
Yes, we have.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Anthony?
Yes, sure can.
Okay, awesome. All right.
All right, so hi everybody, we're back. We're stationed over here. We're stationed over here by our where we planted loofah seeds, and we wanted you to see it in its final stage, right? But learn to
Joan, can you
recognize-
speak up some?
Okay, sure. So I'm just gonna climb in here. This is a loofah vine. It's part of the cucumber family. And a lot of people think the loofah comes from the ocean, but it's really a beautiful vine that grows this fellow, except it hangs like this. It hangs like this. And once it goes from green to brown like this, then you clip it from the vine and you harvest it. I don't know if you guys can see this, but even this little guy is filled with little black seeds. You hold on to those to plant. And then once you take that dry loofah and soak it in water, you peel that skin like a banana, and you get this beautiful sponge. And we like to use it in the shower. It's a great, it's hard and crusty now, and you think, oh, that's gonna hurt. But as soon as you get it wet, it's
Great
just
for exfoliating.
great, right?
Yeah.
And then you use the other half in the kitchen to scrub your dishes.
So it's one of those that is great to grow all year round, even though it dies back early spring. As you can see, it's already trying to come back.
Right.
And we left the leaves on the ground. So as you can see, the other garden that we had is still very much going and beautiful and lush. And this is in its awkward transition stage. So this is going from our fall and spring garden to getting ready for our summer garden. We cleared out a bunch of the stuff that was a little bit too much and gave us space, but we still left a lot of the leaves on the ground for extra mulch. And that's one of the things that's really necessary during the summer is adding extra mulch into your soil. It's help retain some of that moisture. What often hurts container gardens and raised beds is the fact that they dry out so much. If you're growing in ground, you're not having to worry so much about retaining the water. The soil won't heat up as much, but a container garden and also raised bed, which is essentially a large container garden, you have to make sure that it has a lot of wicking items. So mulch, peat moss. Another thing that I use is rice hulls. Anything to kind of really create that. Also using ground covers. One of my favorites for a ground cover, besides the mint, is Greek oregano. Instead of it growing big in a bush, it kind of grows outward. So that's one of the herbs that I recommend during the summer.
I want everybody to see this gorgeous soil. I don't know if I need to get closer or not, but we're going to show you about adding amenities to the soil before we tuck these little starters in the ground. But this is gorgeous, dark, moist soil. And by adding a few of the amenities, we're going to end up with a really healthy base for these starter plants. Before we get to the planting, we want to share a really cool water conservation technique. And if you guys are interested, Morgan and I are planning some workshops for the fall. And the Oya is an ancient vessel. We'll show you two different versions. This is a big one if you have a big space, and here's a much smaller one for a smaller space. And I was fascinated by the whole relationship between the clay that you make these with and the soil itself, because what you do is you bury it into the ground deep enough so that you have just the top part of your vessel above the ground.
You'll bury it to about here.
Yep. And then you fill it with water.
So this is a traditional Mexican technique that has been used obviously for many generations for retaining water. What happens is it slowly leaches the water out into your soil and keeps the ground moist, so you don't lose as much. We're not losing so much to evaporation. So the traditional one usually has a lid. I've also used the smaller ones like that in container gardens, or even found at different thrift stores the wine cooler cylinders that are terracotta, but have no glaze. If they have a glaze, then it's not going to work.
You do not want a glaze on either side. This is just a slip on the one that I made in the ground, and you can always put a little piece of wet clay or a little tile on the very top. Yep. But the cool thing about it is that you would think the water would just keep leaching out, but the relationship I was referring to earlier has to do with the water and the soil are speaking to each other, and the plant as well, and it knows when to apply pressure back on the Oya, and it will stop leaching out the water until the soil is ready again. It's so beautiful, right?
Yeah.
So it's why this technique is used all over the world. It has a lot of history. So you just bury it like this. And then whenever you see the water is, you can't see much water in there anymore, you just refill it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, as you can see in the garden, we have drip systems with emitters. We have converted mostly to these spaghetti lines that drip a ninth of a gallon per minute, or is it per hour? It'll tell you when you buy it.
I don't know.
But we have these in here already. If you're not ready to invest into an irrigation system, this is my favorite soaker hose. I just found it this year and I'm really, really impressed with it. It's by H2O Works. They have their own website. You can also get it on Amazon. It's PVC, but it's recycled rubber, which I also very much appreciated. But it's the only soaker hose that I've ever had, because I've gotten the other ones, the black ones or the fabric ones or the green ones that have the holes poked in it. I've tried multiple ones and they don't all seem to evenly disperse water. And this one so far, I've been using it for about a month and I'm super impressed at how even the spread is on that. And you can put that on a timer. They hook it to your hose bib with a timer, and then you don't have to worry about possibly forgetting. And it gives a good even spread throughout. And again, limits the amount of evaporation that you have, especially if you put mulch on top of that.
All right.
Morgan, I have another question.
Okay.
Can you put something into the container below the soil to maintain moisture?
Not sure what.
Yeah,
Put
yeah,
water.
yeah. You're putting water in the container, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I was pouring
Yeah,
into.
right. Okay.
But actually, that's a good repeat question, because you could also do compost tea every other time too, just as long as it's not too mucky. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Just
know that
a
it would
light
leach,
tea.
would it leach through the terracotta enough?
I think it would, but it would have to.
And a follow-up question on that: do stones around plants and flowers retain heat and dry them out faster? Is much better?
Stones,
Yeah, stones will definitely retain heat.
as will concrete block.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Wood is better. Wood and
it's a composite.
composite wood. Yeah.
So
All right, we're gonna start showing you how to add your amenities now to your. We're gonna do a little demo here with some starters, and
I'll show them and you push that way and turn around.
Okay, guys, another question. Are coffee grounds recommended as ground cover for small container gardens?
No.
but bury it in, sprinkle it around.
It's highly acidic. And it takes about 2 years to decompose, so you're really not getting any benefit from it. If you make it into your compost tea and let it dilute a little bit, then it can have some benefits for those plants that like high acidity. We have very alkaline soils, so it can help balance it out, but too much of it would make your soil too acidic, and we really don't have very many plants that like growing in this. I mean, unless you're doing like tropicals, like pineapple or
Keeps mosquitoes away. The coffee.
the smell of the coffee does. Yeah, burning the coffee does. What would be something else? I think geraniums.
Geraniums are acid loving.
Yeah, so if your plants are acid loving, add coffee, but for the most part, it's kind of overkill for most of the plants.
And there's one inquiry. Is there a phone number or email to contact Joan?
Yeah. You wanna?
Yeah, just use 602-616-0223.
Anthony, can you put that in the chat?
Yeah, I'll put it in the Q&A.
Okay,
Okay.
so we don't want to run out of time here. So
Okay, go ahead.
the first component that we're going to add to our soil is a little bit of mushroom compost. And the cool thing about the mushroom compost, it's real fluffy. And so it's going to add soil structure. It's got a little peat moss in it. It's got a little coconut core.
Yeah, it's what it and it doesn't really have mushrooms. A lot of people think
Right,
that it does
right.
have mushrooms in it. It's just called that because it's light and fluffy, and then dairy mushrooms could
Like-
grow in
like-
there,
Yeah,
but not. But it's just,
but not by itself.
but not by itself.
Yeah.
So, but it's really good at making your containers light and fluffy. And so that's one of the reasons why we put it in there.
The next ingredient in our amendment is it's called Bioflora Dry Crumbles, and they're little pellets. And the cool thing about the pellet is it's a combination of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash. So you're giving like a multiple vitamin to the earth, to the plant, to get everybody started and
And it's a
balanced.
slow release.
Slow release. So we're talking in this area, we're not talking much. We're not talking, do not throw this much. This is potent stuff.
Yeah, fertilizers
just-
can actually burn your plants, so you want to be very cautious with fertilizers. It'll shock your plants if you have plants in there that are already. What some people often do is they're like, "Oh, my plants are starving," so they'll give them fertilizer, but then they shock it even more. So it's more for this is a preventative, adding it in, and the slow release is much better so that you don't shock your plants.
Next ingredient is chicken poop. This comes easy to Morgan and myself because we both raise chickens.
Yes.
So, but the cool thing about chicken poop is you probably have friends that have chickens. So why chicken poop? Well, it adds nitrogen. It also builds the soil, and
And it's a cold manure, so you can use it right away. Cow and horse often are considered hot manure, so you have to allow time for it to decompose, usually 6 months to a year. Also with chicken poo or rabbit poo being a cold manure, is you can add it right away, but also you don't have to worry about herbicides being in them in horse and cow, because the alfalfa that a lot of horses eat do have herbicides, and that can kill your plants. So definitely we recommend chicken poop.
all right. So the next ingredient is azomite, and it too is really potent. It's very condensed, but it's also a very helpful ingredient. It comes from volcanic ash. That's what it is. And so it's packed full of minerals and nutrients for the soil to help with the roots of the plant.
Right, and that's spelled AZOMITE, azomite. And you know,
Trace minerals.
trace
yeah.
minerals that a lot of soil needs a little extra boost of. Again, you're not going to use a lot of these. A little bit goes a long way.
Right. And I'll just show you what we mean. This
Excuse
is-
me, Joan,
Yes.
a question. What was the second item added? Bio something?
Bioflora.
Oh, yeah. Bioflora Dry Crumbles. Dry Crumbles. It's a pellet fertilizer, and you can get this particular one from the urban farm.
Yeah,
They
and
sell big bags of it, and it'll last you several years.
yeah,
Just keep it protected. It's a really good investment. One of the best investments you can make if you're a serious gardener. So the azomite's the same thing. You invest in a bag of it, you're going to have it a long time. You can see how much is in here. I'm just going to take this much. And I'm gonna sprinkle it around the area, and that's it.
That's it.
That is it. And last but not least, worm castings. And once you really get into your gardening and you're starting to build your own soil, you're gonna see lots of red wigglers squirming around in your soil, and that's really, really cool.
And if you need to add worms to your garden, get red wigglers, not earthworms, not bait worms. They
Save
actually,
those for fishing.
yeah.
Show them the dark, rich. Now this is worm poop, guys.
So yeah, and that definitely, probably by this time next year, we'll have our own worm castings from the Lear Garden.
So the cool thing about worm castings too is you can make a tea out of it for the garden, for your plants, for your family members who are tomatoes and sunflowers and peppers. It's got a lot of nitrogen in it and calcium. So it's really great for fruiting flowers too. So
Another question. Where can you get azomite?
Urban Farm.
I've seen it. I've seen it at any of
Dig It
Dig It,
Nursery on 16th Street in Thomas.
A&P, and I've also
A&P.
seen it at Shoppers. And
Just shop local for these kind of things.
yeah, I've seen it
Try to
at
stay off the internet.
Shoppers, Supply, and then also Tractor Supply.
And you can come to Clark Park Marketplace on Saturday mornings and buy your fresh bag of this fabulous mix from some of our volunteers. So, and we also sell the seeds that we plant here as well. And you're all welcome to come this Saturday. We'll be here from 8 to 10:30. 3 Saturdays a month.
Yeah.
And we have our little market table set up.
Yep.
So, all right. So now we've got our soil all rich and ready for planting. So, Morgan, explain what we're gonna put in.
So again, we're of course going to endorse local. We have some plants here that comes from Bioflora Gardens. I have been growing with Bioflora Gardens for 10 plus years now. And you can find those herb plants at your local nursery, Summer Winds, and a couple others around the area. Or you can buy from her online website as well. The one thing about what we always recommend is buying locally is if you go to the big box stores, they ship theirs in, and they're not always, the big box stores also buy for the entire nation. So they're buying plants that will go for, that should really be growing in the Midwest right now and not necessarily for our area. What you can plant now.
Yeah, there's a reason why you get 3 for $10. So yeah, pay attention.
Yeah. So right now, you can put in a lot of your heat-loving herbs, your oregano, your mints, chives, onions. Basil is going to explode over the summer. But we have several different types of basil here in the garden. We're planting today, we're planting an amethyst, which is one of my favorites because it's just this bright, beautiful purple color. We have a couple more that we'll be planting over the summer as well. Another one of my favorites is the African blue basil because it gets really, really big, but the seeds are sterile. So you can allow the flowers to stay on there, and the bees absolutely love basil. And there's different types. So this is like a large leaf basil. And then there's also Thai basils as well. So again, the Greek oregano is one of my favorite because it's a great ground cover. We have chives as well, which also we put into the garden because it prevents a lot of pests from wanting to take residence in your garden. And sage is another one that's great for right now. A couple others is we have the Malabar spinach. It's a very beautiful plant. It's not like the spinach that you're used to. It's got very thick leaves. And it has a very, how would you, succulent.
Yeah, it's very much like a succulent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's a vine. So and then it's bright, and it's this bright dark green, and then the vine underneath is this beautiful purple, and it's very beautiful dark purple seed pods on it. So it's a vine. You'll want to have that grow up. Another one to grow is your Mediterranean. The hibiscus flower is also rosella. It is a very large bush, and it just absolutely loves being in the full sun and the heat of the summer. And then early spring, fall, you'll get the wonderful seed pods, the calyx that they make hibiscus tea out of, Jamaica tea out of. But it's also with the fresh ones, we can do a lot of different things as well. You can candy them. You can cook with them. I made a curd out of them, like lemon curd for Thanksgiving. It was super yummy. Your tomatoes, it's kind of late to plant tomatoes. So you'll see them in every big box store. It's kind of late to plant them. They're going to need a lot of shade. And once the temperature gets above 90 degrees, they're not going to pollinate. So it's kind of late for tomato, getting them in the ground. You can probably in the next week or so put them in if they're large enough. But I would also do smaller variety tomato, like your cherry tomatoes, not the big beefsteak tomato.
Yeah, like these. These just got harvested from the Food in the Alley garden. So they're the little pear tomato. There's probably 7 or 8 different tomato plants that we're harvesting now. But every once in a while, you'll get a green tomato dropping down. We don't throw those away. We slice them up and do a stir fry with other vegetables, the garlic, the onions that we're harvesting now.
Yep.
So don't throw the
Okay,
green.
9 minutes left.
Okay. Your peppers as well. Your peppers will need shade as well. Eggplant is one that loves the sun. So you can plant that in there. There's another one. And tomatillos right now.
Yeah.
Those are also ones that you can plant in the garden.
I'm gonna put this one right here.
Okay. So I think that's kind of, we've talked really, really fast. Did we have any additional questions for our last few minutes?
Yes. Where is the urban farm?
You can Google them, urbanfarm.org, and Greg Peterson has a whole team of people that are doing a fabulous job selling the trees, the citrus, and the
They sell seasonally. They sell seasonally because they do the Great American Seed Up, so you can get abundance of seeds. Then in the winter they do bare root trees. So it just having that on your bookmark, just looking for that, and it'll have the address of where they're located right now.
right. And if you're interested too, we like them so much that we partner with them and sell the seeds from the Seed Up. So you can buy these at the marketplace.
Yep.
And you can buy starters. You can buy starters that have been grown at Escalante Community Gardens
And also
the Velarde Gardens.
Yep.
And another question about the location again, I guess they didn't hear it. The location of the garden that you're at, Clark Park Community Garden.
Yeah, it's 1730 South Roosevelt in Tempe, Arizona. So make sure when you Google it, it's at Tempe. So it's 1730 South Roosevelt in Tempe, Arizona.
And it's near Broadway, isn't it?
Yes.
It's just south of north of Broadway.
Yeah, just north of Broadway. The major crossroads is Mill and Broadway.
So the last
I
thing
can put
we
that
want to
in
make
chat.
sure everybody understands as we're getting close to the summer hot months, you want to protect your beautiful soil that you just made with us today, and protect it with your barks like this. But also, we did some harvesting of some moringa, and this is the skin the shell of the dried moringa. So we've saved all that. And it makes, you know, fabulous mulch. Just toss it up in the garden, toss your barks. And that'll keep everything, keep your soil cool as the summer months, you know, want to dry your soil out much faster. This will protect it.
And here's a question from Paula. My seedlings are being eaten by giant squirrels. It's a 4-inch, it's a 4-inch raised bed garden. Any recommendations?
It's a, how big?
It's a,
4 inches off
yeah,
the ground.
4-inch raised bed garden.
Keep them out.
Yeah, I with squirrels. Yeah, with squirrels, you could have a 40-foot bed and they would still find a way to get in. Squirrels are very, very intelligent. It's hard to keep them out of your garden. The thing that I probably would recommend most is probably putting a chicken wire cage around it.
Very tight chicken wire screen because they'll chew their way through it.
Yeah, and they're smart. They're not really
smart.
There's not really anything that will deter them plant wise.
You got to build them their own garden. That's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
And then they'll stay away from yours. So,
And getting back to the ancient grains,
yes.
someone wanted to know the name of the ancient grains that you were talking about.
So what we showcased was Tibetan purple barley. That's what's growing now. We have a couple starts of the African black sorghum. The amaranth came up. It's the Hopi red dye amaranth. We also have the buckwheat that came up. Where was the buckwheat from?
I don't recall.
Madagascar?
Madagascar.
I think so. And then the quinoa we're waiting on as well. And
in the fall.
And in the fall, we are going to do the acorn wheat and the Tibetan barley again.
Oh, correction from Paula. It's a 4-foot raised bed, not 4 inch.
That must be Paula Weiss. Is that you, Paula?
Yeah, Paula Weiss, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
Paula.
would recommend doing the chicken wire.
And then make some of those gorgeous jars and put one of those squirrels on top for the lid.
Yeah.
She makes beautiful jars.
I mean, the best probably thing to do is probably get a cage.
Yeah, you got to build them.
Get a trap. You can get humane traps and relocate them, but relocate them, far away.
Yeah.
And nowhere near the
Yeah, nowhere near.
nowhere near our garden.
Nowhere near your neighbor's garden either.
So yeah, there are humane traps that you can get at like Tractor Supply or Shopper Supply. You might be able to get some of the rescues might have them as well as loaners, but you're probably going to have to relocate your squirrel more than anything.
Yeah, ground squirrels. Yeah, so Paula has another question. How are you processing the ancient grains for flour?
All the grains that we chose were free thrashing. So basically, when we tap them, they fall out of their husk. We don't have to do any extra milling to get them to come out. And they're also ones that can be used as a whole grain. We can use them for flour, but the biggest nutrient bang for our buck basically is to use it as a whole grain.
Right.
I don't see any other questions. Okay, guys, any thing you want to say to wrap up? We got 2 minutes left.
Yeah, we just want to invite everyone to come and at the very least just do a walkabout. It's so beautiful here right now. You can see the pomegranate trees starting to bloom, and all the grapevines have come back.
And there's somebody here every Saturday in the morning. We have the CSA, which is 3 Saturdays out of the month, and there are people here that get here as early as 7 o'clock in the morning. We do volunteering starting at 8 in the garden until it gets hot around 10:30, 11. We also have Wednesday night at 6:30, where we turn the lights on and it's nice and cool, and you can come and check out the garden as well on Wednesday nights.
Right. And if you volunteer, then these 2 huge garden beds that always have food ready to harvest, you're welcome to take as much home as you can use. So it's a wonderful way to be outdoors, get some exercise, meet new people, and
learn from each
learn.
other and have that community aspect of it. And then also, if you want to have your own bed, then you can go to our
website
at
Facebook page. Is it on our Facebook page?
I don't think it is yet,
Not
but
yet.
it is on our Facebook page, our website at tempeaction.org. And then if you look under Community Gardens, Clark Park, you'll be able to get more information about us there.
And there's so much more to learn of seed saving. We barely touched that last week. And I just want you to see what one little French marigold will harvest for you. You put these in a bag, you label it when you harvested it, and the following season you can plant these. And you'll have a whole field of marigolds.
And that's 5 o'clock.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Joan and Morgan. Very informative, and everyone really appreciate the information. Please visit Clark Park once again on Roosevelt, just south of, or actually north of Broadway.
Right.
Okay, thanks again. Thank you everyone for attending.
Happy gardening.
Okay, bye.